What happens when Hollywood sweetheart meets daytime television's most controversial host and things go so wrong that one of them storms off set in the middle of a live broadcast? You're about to witness the most explosive exit in daytime TV history. Make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story will leave you speechless. The View's studio buzzed with its usual pre-show energy, but today felt different. Reese Witherspoon sat across from the panel, her signature smile masking what would soon become television gold. Joy Behar leaned back in her chair, that familiar smirk playing across her lips as she shuffled through her notes. So, your new production company is making quite the splash in Hollywood. Joy began, her tone already carrying an edge that the audience couldn't quite place yet. Tell us about this sudden passion for female empowerment. Is this genuine activism or just another celebrity trend? Reese's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her composure. Well, Joy, I've always believed in supporting women's voices in entertainment. My production company isn't a trend, it's been a dream of mine for years. A dream, Joy repeated, drawing out the word mockingly. How convenient that this dream coincided perfectly with the Me Too movement. Some might say you're just capitalizing on women's pain for profit. The studio fell silent. Even Whoopi Goldberg, usually quick to mediate, seemed stunned by Joy's aggressive opening. Reese straightened in her chair, her southern grace beginning to show cracks. I'm sorry, but I think you've misunderstood my intentions, Reese said, her voice steady but growing firmer. I've been working toward this goal long before any movement brought these issues to mainstream attention. Joy leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. Really? Because your timing seems awfully strategic. First, you produce Big Little Lies with all its domestic violence themes right when that was trending in the news. Then Little Fires Everywhere dealing with racial tensions when that became politically profitable. Are you a producer or an opportunist, Joy? That's completely unfair, Sunny host interjected, but Joy held up a hand to silence her. No, let her answer, Joy said, never taking her eyes off Ree. I think America deserves to know if their beloved Elle Woods is just another Hollywood phony riding the wave of real women's struggles. Reese's cheeks flushed pink, a sign that Joy's barbs were hitting their mark. I don't appreciate your tone or your implications. Joy, my work speaks for itself, and the women who have benefited from the opportunities I've created would disagree with your assessment. Oh, the women who have benefited, Joy laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the studio. You mean the already privileged actresses who got even more privileged roles? What about the makeup artists, the craft service workers, the women who actually need help? Or are they not photogenic enough for your brand of feminism? The cameras captured every micro-expression as Reese's composure began to crack. Her hands gripped the arms of her chair, knuckles whitening as Joy continued her assault. I've created jobs for hundreds of women across all departments, Reese said, her voice rising slightly. From writers to directors to crew members, you're painting a picture that simply isn't true. Am I? Joy shot back. Because from where I'm sitting, I see someone who's made millions by slapping a feminist label on entertainment, while real women struggle to get basic workplace protections. But hey, at least you look good doing it, right? Sarah Haynes shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly wanting to intervene, but unsure how to handle Joy's unprecedented attack. The audience sat in stunned silence, watching their beloved morning show transform into something unrecognizable. You know what, Joy? Reese said, her voice now carrying a steely edge that her fans had never heard before. I came here thinking we'd have a productive conversation about important issues. Instead, you've chosen to attack my character and question my motives without any basis. In fact, Joy's smirk widened. Facts. Let's talk facts. Fact. Your company predominantly works with A-list talent. Fact. Your projects always seem to align perfectly with whatever social issue is trending. Fact. You've made a fortune by commodifying women's pain. Those are facts, sweetheart. The condescending endearment hit like a slap across the face. Reese's carefully maintained facade finally cracked completely. Don't you dare call me sweetheart, she snapped, her voice cutting through the studio like a blade. And don't you dare lecture me about women's pain when you've built your career on tearing other women down. What exactly have you done for women lately, besides create controversy for ratings? The studio erupted, Someone in the audience gasped audibly. Even the camera operators seemed to lean in, sensing they were witnessing television history in the making. Joy's face darkened, her mock friendliness evaporating entirely. "Excuse me, I've been fighting for women's rights since before you were playing dress-up in sorority houses. I don't need some Hollywood princess lecturing me about real activism." "Real activism?" Reese stood up, her chair scraping against the floor with a sound that seemed to echo through the sudden silence. "Real activism isn't ambushing guests with personal attacks on live television. Real activism isn't using your platform to tear down other women who are actually trying to make a difference." Joy rose to meet her, both women now standing across from each other like fighters in a ring. "You want to talk about making a difference? I've been speaking truth to power while you were making rom-coms about shopping. Don't confuse publicity campaigns with actual impact. This is incredible," one of the producers whispered into his headset, though his shock was evident even through the control room's reinforced glass. Reese's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that somehow carried more weight than shouting. "You know what's incredible, Joy? That someone who claims to support women would spend 20 minutes trying to destroy another woman on national television. Is this really who you want to be?" The question hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Joy's face twisted into something ugly. All pretense of professional civility abandoned. The other hosts sat frozen, watching their colleague transform before their eyes. "Who I want to be?" Joy's voice rose to a near shriek. "I want to be someone who calls out fake feminists when I see them, someone who doesn't let Hollywood pretty girls play dress-up with serious issues while real women suffer." Reese took a step back, genuinely shocked by the venom in Joy's voice. "Joy, listen to yourself. You're attacking me personally instead of engaging with the actual work I'm doing. This isn't journalism. This is character assassination." "Character assassination?" Joy laughed bitterly. "Your whole persona is a carefully crafted marketing campaign designed to sell movies and make money. At least I'm honest about who I am." The cameras captured every detail as Whoopi finally found her voice. "Joy, maybe we should take a breath here, and no," Joy snapped, whirling toward her longtime co-host. "I'm tired of pretending these celebrities are heroes just because they write checks and give speeches. This woman has done nothing but profit off real women's pain, and everyone's too stoic to call her out on it." Reese's hands began to shake, not from fear, but from barely contained rage. "You want to talk about profiting off women's pain? What do you call this? You're literally trying to humiliate me on live television for entertainment value. You're exploiting this moment for ratings while lecturing me about exploitation." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the studio. Even some of the crew members exchanged meaningful glances as Reese's words hit their mark. Joy's response was swift and vicious. "At least I earned my platform through decades of hard work, not by batting my eyelashes and playing the perfect blonde. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in real journalism." "Real journalism?" Reese's voice climbed higher, her southern accent becoming more pronounced as her control slipped. "Is that what you call this ambush? Because real journalists ask questions to get answers, not to destroy their subjects. Real journalists have integrity." The word integrity seemed to hit Joy like a physical blow. Her face went red, and when she spoke again, her voice was dangerously quiet. "Don't you dare question my integrity. I've been fighting battles you can't even imagine while you were playing make-believe for money. I've taken stands that cost me opportunities, relationships, security, everything." Reese shot back without hesitation. "I've sacrificed privacy, normally, the ability to fail without it being public spectacle. I've had my every decision scrutinized, my motives questioned, my intelligence insulted, and apparently I've sacrificed the right to use my platform for good without being attacked by someone who should understand the challenges women face in public life." The studio was dead silent, except for the hum of the cameras. Even the audience seemed to be holding their breath, sensing they were witnessing something that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. Joy's expression shifted, becoming almost predatory. "Oh, poor little rich girl, you've had to deal with criticism while making millions. My heart bleeds for you. Truly, tell me, how exactly has your massive wealth and privilege made you qualified to speak for struggling women?" Lugging, I never claimed to speak for anyone but myself, Ree replied, her voice steady despite the obvious effort it took to maintain control. But at least I'm trying to use what I have to create opportunities for others. What are you doing besides tearing people down? I'm exposing frauds, Joyce snarled. I'm making sure people see past the pretty packaging to the empty product inside. Someone has to ask the hard questions. Hard questions, Ree laughed, but there was no humor in it. Joy, you haven't asked a single legitimate question today. You've made accusations, thrown insults, and created drama, but you haven't once engaged with the actual substance of the work I'm doing. Anna Navarro tried to interject. Maybe we could focus on specific projects and stay out of this. Joy snapped, her focus never leaving Ree. This is between me and Miss Perfect here. The dismissal of her colleague was so rude that even some audience members audibly gasped. Ray seized on the moment. There it is, she said, pointing at Joy. You just dismissed another woman's voice because it didn't serve your narrative. You talk about supporting women while silencing the one sitting right next to you. How is that different from what you're accusing me of? Indu 999. Joy's jaw clenched so hard her teeth were visible, because I've earned the right to speak. I've paid my dues. You've become exactly what you claim to fight against, Ree interrupted, her voice cutting through Joy's response like a knife. You're using your power to bully and intimidate. You're silencing voices that don't agree with you. You're putting entertainment value above truth and dignity. The words hung in the air like an indictment. Joy's face went through a series of expressions. Shock, rage, something that might have been recognition before settling into cold fury. How dare you? She whispered, then louder. How dare you come into my house and lecture me about feminism and power? You don't know anything about real struggle, real sacrifice, real activism. You're a pretender, a tourist in the world of social justice. Ray's composure finally cracked completely. Your house. This isn't your house, Joy. This is supposed to be a place for honest dialogue, not personal vendettas. And if this is how you treat guests who don't bow down to you, then maybe it's time for new management. The suggestion that Joy didn't belong on her own show was the final straw. Joy's eyes blazed with an intensity that seemed to burn through the television screens of millions of viewers. Joy's face contorted with rage, her voice rising to a level that made several audience members visibly uncomfortable. New management? You arrogant little princess. I helped build this show when you were still learning your lines for teen movies. This is my show, and I'll say whatever I want to whoever I want. Ree stood taller, her fear completely replaced by righteous anger. No, Joy, this isn't your show. This belongs to the viewers who trust you to conduct honest interviews, not public executions, and right now you're betraying that trust. Trust. Joy's laugh was harsh and grating. You want to talk about trust? The only thing I trust about you is that you'll do whatever benefits your brand. Every cause you champion, every project you produce, it's all calculated to make you look good while making you rich. And what's your calculation here, Joy? Ree fired back, gesturing to the chaos around them. What's your end game with this attack? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to destroy me for sport. Joy's response came so fast and so venomous that it shocked everyone in the studio. Maybe I am. Maybe someone needs to knock you off that pedestal you've built for yourself. Maybe it's time people saw the real Reese Witherspoon, not the carefully manufactured saint your publicists have created. The admission hung in the air like a confession. Even Joy seemed surprised by her own honesty. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. Yes, I said it. Someone needs to expose you for what you really are. An opportunistic actress who's convinced the world she's some kind of activist hero. Well, congratulations. America just got to see behind the mask. Whoopi finally stood up, her voice carrying the authority of decades in television. Joy, you need to stop this right now. This has gone way beyond appropriate, but Joy was past listening to anyone. She turned on Whoopi with the same fury she'd been directing at Ree. Don't you dare tell me what's appropriate, Whoopi. I'm doing what nobody else has the courage to do. I'm asking the hard questions that matter. These aren't questions, Ree said, her voice now steady with conviction. This is a personal attack disguised as journalism. And frankly, it says more about you than it does about me. Joy whipped back toward Ree, her movements sharp and erratic. Oh, it says something about me. All right. It says I'm not afraid to call out fake feminists when I see them. It says I won't be fooled by pretty smiles and designer causes. What it says, Ree replied, her voice cutting through Joy's ranting, is that you've become so consumed with your own bitterness that you can't recognize genuine effort when you see it. What it says is that you're more interested in tearing people down than building anything up. The words hit Joy like physical blows. Her face cycled through emotions. Rage, hurt, something that looked almost like shame, before settling back into fury. Bitterness, she spat. You think this is bitterness? This is reality, sweetheart. This is what happens when someone finally has the guts to strip away your public relations fantasy and show people who you really are. Who I really am. Reese's voice rose, matching Joy's intensity. I'm someone who's trying to use whatever influence I have to create opportunities for other people. I'm someone who believes in lifting others up instead clears throat of tearing them down. And right now, I'm someone who's deeply disappointed in what passes for journalism on this show. The criticism of the show itself was a bridge too far for Joy. Her voice reached a crescendo that could probably be heard in the hallway outside the studio. Disappointed? You're disappointed. You come on my show. You insult my profession. You question my methods. And you have the nerve to say you're disappointed. Who do you think you are? I'm someone who expected better, Ree said quietly. The contrast with Joy's shouting making her words even more powerful. I expected to have an honest conversation with professionals. Instead, I walked into an ambush orchestrated by someone who seems to have forgotten what journalism is supposed to be about. The observation was so accurate and so damning that it seemed to break something inside Joy. She looked around the studio wildly, at her co-hosts who were staring at her with obvious concern, at the crew who had stopped pretending to work, at the audience who sat in stunned silence. Fine, she said, her voice suddenly flat and cold. You want honesty? Here's honesty. I'm tired of pretending that celebrity activism means anything. I'm tired of watching rich people get praised for the bare minimum while real activists get ignored. And I'm especially tired of watching someone like you get celebrated for doing what should be basic human decency. Ree absorbed the words, then responded with devastating calm joy. If basic human decency bothers you this much, then maybe the problem isn't with the people trying to do good. Maybe the problem is with your perspective. The words landed like a final blow. Joy stood there for a moment, her face cycling through emotions too quickly to track. Then, without warning, she ripped off her microphone with such violence that the feedback screamed through the studio speakers. You know what? She announced to the stunned silence. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. I don't have to pretend that this vapid celebrity culture warrior deserves respect, and I don't have to participate in this charade anymore. She threw the microphone down on the table where it landed with a crash that seemed to echo forever in the sudden quiet. Joy, please.